I think the primary reason is a systemic patriarchal issue. And I have heard anecdotally that has been inspirational to the next generation of scientists, and they see that we can manage it. If you want to proceed, go up the ladder, you have to go into management. And I think that's when a lot of women just make the decision that they don't have the bandwidth for that.
Hello and welcome back to the Ocean News podcast. I'm Eva Cahill, the editorial assistant here at Oceanographic. This week's Friday interview is our third and final episode of our Women in STEM interview series, and it's just in time for International Women's Day this Sunday. I talked to Dr Elvira De Eyto, a scientist at the Marine Institute. Dr De Eyto has the most skin in the game of all the interviewees I've talked to, with her career spanning over 20 years in the sector. We talked about the changes in representation over the course of her career, the structural barriers outside of that which influence the leaky pipeline syndrome within the field, and how important visibility is in attracting women into the profession. I found it to be a really interesting discussion, and I hope you do too. Would you be able to introduce yourself and a bit about your career?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Elvira De Eyto. I have worked for the Marine Institute since 2002, so nearly 25 years. I have a degree in zoology, and then I did a PhD also in zoology, and then I did some postdoc work, various things, and then I came to work in the Marine Institute, mainly from the oceanographic point of view, where we work does a lot of monitoring of diadromous fish. So diadromous fish are migratory fish that move between the ocean and the freshwater, and so that's the kind of focus of my work. So I do quite a lot of freshwater research, but also marine research. Yeah, it's a lot of long-term data collection and monitoring.
And so obviously you've had a great career, and there's these stats that have come out about how women are overrepresented as graduate students, but then they kind of fall by the wayside a bit as you get to more senior and leadership levels.
Yeah.
What's your experience of that, and why do you think this might be?
Yeah, well, so in the Marine Institute, actually, it's really, it's a really gender equal workforce. 55% of the employees are women. So out of the 277, 55% are women. And the vast majority of them hold a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a PhD. So, and it's same for women and men in the marine world. Yeah, it is true in the Marine Institute, I would say the senior management women are underrepresented, very much. I think we have 7 directors and only one of them is female. And, definitely as you go up the grades, there's less and less representation by females. I think there's loads of reasons for that. I think the primary reason is a systemic patriarchal issue. Generally, I think it still holds that women take on the burden of, not the burden, they take on the responsibility of minding children and also minding parents. And as you get older, those two things come together such that you don't have the space to advance in a career unless you've got a really, really strong support system. And I feel that that's it. I think most women, as they get older, you become aware of more and more of these responsibilities, and you don't want to take on extra responsibilities and work because it will just be too much. That's my personal feeling. So I think it is still more of a societal issue than a specific sector issue. I think marine science is pretty gender equal. I don't think there are really big systemic issues in marine science that prevent women from moving up the ladder or anything, because I think it's changed. 20 years, 25 years ago when I started, it probably was still quite rare to see, women out in boats, or women, scuba diving, or women doing the more technical roles. But I think that has changed. So I don't think now there's as much systemic bias. I think it's still a societal issue. That's my feeling.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about how you feel it's changed from when you first started your career and you saw less women represented to now.
Probably, it is still true to say the area that I work in, which is salmon biology, is still really male dominated. But it is changing. But when I started in the salmon biology world, I remember sitting in at a meeting, maybe 10 years ago, it wasn't that long ago. And I think there was 29 people in the room and I was the only female.
Wow.
Yeah. So salmon biology, I would say, is still quite male dominated. And I think that is a legacy issue to do with salmon biology traditionally being, a lot of anglers and a lot of, middle-aged white men, basically. And I think that kind of went through into the kind of jobs that people take on and whatever. But in the last couple of years, definitely there's been some really good, strong female salmon biologists coming through. A lot from the Nordic countries, I would say, in Canada and even in Ireland and the UK. So salmon biology is slower than, I would say, marine science in general. So I think, I think probably if we think about 20, 25 years ago, when I was doing my zoology degree, I think there was 18 of us doing that degree, and we were half and half, male or female. And I think it is gradually just going into the system. But there is definitely still this backlog of then when you get to be a senior scientist or you've been around a long time, and then certainly within the Marine Institute and in many of the state agencies, if you want to proceed or go up the ladder, you have to go into management. And I think that's when a lot of women just make the decision that they don't have the bandwidth for that.
Have you felt that has impacted your career, that you've made just personal decisions that have impacted your professional development?
Well, I mean, you just make your decisions. You make your decisions on whether you want to stay in, doing the scientific work or if you want to go into management. I think that's a personal decision. Like we have a couple of really, really good senior managers in the Marine Institute that are women, definitely. And so I think if that's a path that you want to follow, I think definitely within the Marine Institute, it's there. The path is there, but you have to make that decision. I think lots of people don't make that decision if they have lots of other issues, lots of other things they have to look after.
It's obviously a big topic for the Marine Institute. Why is that? Why have you made it a focus? Why is it important to you guys?
Yeah, I think everybody would recognise that, International Day of Women in Science is all about representation, and, if you can't see it, you can't be it. Yeah. And I do feel like that makes a really positive impact. And we heard that from, so where we work here, we get a lot of TY students, as transition year students in Ireland. I don't know if you're familiar, but in Ireland, we'd get students in from schools at about 16 years old to do some work experience. And then we also get a lot of first year students, so they're undergraduate. And I have heard kind of anecdotally over the years that for them to be here and see there's a lot of us working here are women, and we work really hard and work the same as the men, and there is no perceived difference between the work that we do and the men do. And I have heard anecdotally that is quite been inspirational to the next generation of scientists. And they see that we can manage it, and they see that we can juggle having kids, looking after parents, working full-time in the Marine Institute, that the Marine Institute supports it, that the Marine Institute has really good policies to do with maternity leave and all that kind of stuff, so that it's possible. I think that's the thing, is that we make the next generation see that it's possible, and that's across the Marine Institute. I suppose that's why the Marine Institute's really keen on promoting it, because and then obviously everybody and all the data and research suggests that if you want to have really good problem solving and really good solution focused programs, you need a diverse range of voices. And the really obvious one is make sure you get 50% female, 50% male. That's the first point of diversity. And then all the other diversities, race, sexual orientation, disability, all the other parts of diversity come in as well. But the most obvious one for us is, male, female representation, getting diverse opinions. And diverse opinions then will lead to different solutions and more successful solutions. And I think every research study that's ever been done on gender diversity will show that you get better outcomes if you have a diverse team.
Thank you for listening to this third and final interview in the Women in STEM series. I hope you've enjoyed hearing from these three women who've painted an interesting overall picture about the limitations and the points of positivity in the marine STEM field. I've loved mapping their experiences, seeing where they intersect and where they differ as their careers and experiences vary. And if you'd like to listen to more interviews like these, or keep up to date with the news, subscribe to the Ocean News podcast. Thank you for listening.